Real rich coming from a prophet who busted wide open for homies in the desert. That's true. That's true.
That is a fact. Facts.
Anytime they want to mention anything gay, we just bring up what their prophet did, and then they start to blow a gasket cap.
Yeah, and even if we didn't want to go with the al-Zut, all the stuff he did with the al-Zut, then you've got Muhammad and Dihya al-Kalbi, who would be in all these like private meetings, and then when people saw him with Dihya al-Kalbi, he would say, "Oh no, that was the angel Gabriel. He just looks exactly like Dihya al-Kalbi. That's why he was in the back room with me this entire time." And then you've got all these passages about Muhammad being covered in semen, and it's like Aisha was like, "I was scraping it off, and I was scratching it off, and I was washing it off, and I'd still find more." And it's like, why is this guy constantly covered in semen? And you got that hadith in Sunan Abu Dawud where that guy Muhammad pokes a guy with a stick, and he's like, "I want retaliation." He's like, "Oh, take that retaliation." And he's like, "But Muhammad, my shirt is off." And he's like, "Oh, take your retaliation." So Muhammad pulls his shirt up so the guy can smooch him all up and down his milky white flesh and so on. It's like, this is like super, super, super insanely gay every step of the way.
And they raided the Discord server to look for dirt on Than. And let's just show you how dishonest they are. They cropped photos of Than and his wife to make him look gay. They did this. It's like,
here you go. How is Zesty Than, the Discord inspiring femboy?
To be fair, it doesn't take a lot to make Than look gay. I just want to point that out. So.
I look, everybody knows this. Like, if you're friends with me, you will be flirted with. Okay, it's called bro humor. That's how it goes.
Yeah, and we all know there is no humor allowed in Islam, so they don't understand how jokes work with their being the product of 40 generations of cousin marriage. So they see someone making a joke and they go, "Oh, this is the proof they're gay." Man.
Yeah.
But they also, they crop photos. So
So here's the real picture. My wife and I celebrating our 5-year anniversary. And these Muslims who raided the Discord server to try to find dirt on me and they couldn't find anything. They just found, Than flirts with the homies and makes gay jokes with the homies. And then they crop pictures like this to be like, "Look at that. That's a man's hands on Than's butt," which, by the way, my wife is very offended that you like are trying to spin this theory that those are manly hands. Very dainty. Okay. But yeah, this is me and my wife touching my butt. They also have videos of me doing goofy dances and doing goofy faces. Those are recorded and taken by my wife on dates. So I do flirt with the homies.
So I think they're kind of projecting here, Than. Why is Libiano cropping that photo of you to make it look like you're with a man? I mean, like, it's clear he's projecting.
I have a better question, Mike. Why were they spending so much time looking at pictures of my butt?
That's true. They like, oh my, so they found a picture of you like that, had to crop your wife out because they didn't want a woman in there. They wanted to be the one in there. So imply it's a man. It's a lot of projecting, these Freudian slips from these Muslims like Libiano, the Orthodox Muslim, out there cropping that photo. And it's so weird. He got so excited about all these photos. He just had to post them all. He's like, "Guys, look at Than. Isn't he cute? I mean, gay. Isn't this bad?" Wow. A lot of projection.
Yeah, they're basically just crashing out because there's a man that's comfortable with his sexuality.
Now, to be fair here again, they probably photoshopped those pictures for themselves and had them for a while and then they're passing them around and finally someone's like, "Actually, we could call Than gay."
It's probably that sounds what I mean. Is Malik exposed them? They were taking trannies back to hotel rooms, so I'm not surprised at all. They were thinking that kind of stuff.
And the Warner keeps volunteering to take it up the butt to go to a Diddy party and join the Illuminati.
Yep. So kind of projecting.
Muhammad got zooted in the desert by a bunch of zoot men.
Pretty messed up. I just thought it was funny the moment they found it. They immediately got excited. I mean, it just said a lot about them. But yeah, pretty weird.
Well,
stuff.
No. On the plus side is Than. That's actually a positive sign. If they're dedicating time to you, it means they're getting concerned about you.
I actually have a question about that. My Bayesian Islamic Dilemma has been out for 3 months. Nobody's responded to that.
Across the Muslim world, something unthinkable is happening. Millions are turning away, not from culture, not from identity, but from the systems that claim to speak for God. In Iran, Tunisia, Egypt, and even Saudi Arabia, faith is being hollowed out from the inside. Clerics once ruled with absolute authority. Now they're being ignored. Governments.
See that? They had video of concert there.
Was that?
No, I think that was they were playing a video of a concert on there because now they have like Iggy Azalea and stuff like that over there twerking on stage in Saudi Arabia and stuff. They've legalized drinking in areas. Now they have bikini beaches in certain spots and so on. So, yep, things are changing.
Now that control is slipping, and the numbers prove it. In Tunisia, nearly half of the young people now call themselves not religious.
Yeah, I looked that up. There is some interesting data on that. Let me pull that up here. So here we go. So this was a survey done by the BBC looking at in Tunisia. Now, Tunisia is interesting. This is important. They don't seem to, as far as I could tell, maybe I got the data wrong, but they don't have apostasy. So, you know, you don't have to, you're not going to get killed for leaving Islam. BBC cover, so it says the BBC, which covered 11 Arabic-speaking countries, said that Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Algeria in particular, had seen a rise in people defining themselves as not religious since 2013, especially among under 30s. In Tunisia, 31% of all ages define themselves as not religious, with the figure rising to almost half among 18 to 29-year-olds, the highest figure in the region. In 2013, only 16% of people in Tunisia define themselves as non-religious.
That's what they call an avalanche, guys.
That's that. And again, think about this. Tunisia apparently doesn't have apostasy laws. Now compare that to like a nation like, for example, like Pakistan or Iran, places that have apostasy laws where you're going to get killed for doing that. So think of the other Muslim surrounding nations where you could get killed. This is reflective of what's happening throughout the Islamic world, because you can actually freely, leave Islam in this. Libya, which is mired since 2011, has also seen a steep drop in religiosity. The number of people identifying as non-religious, 25%, has more than doubled since 2014. Among 18 to 29-year-olds, the figure is 36%. Out of the other countries, Lebanon, Egypt, Yemen, Sudan, Jordan, Iraq, and Palestinian territories, only Yemen has seen an increase in religious sentiment since 2013. Yeah, and they interviewed 25,000 people. So this was not a little crappy poll here. They interviewed a lot. So yeah, this is some pretty interesting data here coming out. And we've seen the numbers in Iran, but you combine this with like Tunisia, Algeria. This is reflective of what's happening in a lot of these countries where you have, like, for example, Egypt, you have apostasy laws there. Are a lot of the people that are saying they're Muslim actually Muslim, or are they just saying it because they don't want to be killed or thrown in prison? That's what you got to think.
In Iran, only 1 in 3 still identify with the regime's version of Islam. On Reddit, over 400,000 ex-Muslims are openly documenting their exit. This isn't rebellion. It's collapse. Not loud, not violent, but viral and spreading fast. And behind it all is one brutal truth. When religion is used for power, people stop trusting the religion and start walking away.
So for a lot of places in the Muslim world, for a long time, Islam is all you know. Islam is all you encounter. You can't question it. You can't challenge it, and so on. You don't have a lot of ideas circulating to challenge this stuff. So all of a sudden, people in all these countries get internet access, and that's pretty much it. This is the result of a couple of decades now of internet access, where they can encounter other ideas and they look around and say, this Islam stuff's pretty crappy.
Yep. That is exactly what is happening.
Nearly 2 billion people.
And if you think about it in terms of psychology, Islam, of course, is a religion that thrived on, for example, conquest, expansion. Hey, join Islam, you get to go on conquest, expand, pillage. They can't do that anymore. So right now the West is dominating the Islamic world. And of course, Muslims feel that sense of inferiority. We talked to an ex-Dawah teacher who came on one of our streams who said that he was seeing that in the community before he left Islam. And we had to take that down because he was getting threats, and we're going to re-upload it again with his voice, with a voice changer on him. But yeah, that's what he was experiencing. But if you're like a Muslim living in the West, you're not part of the what they would perceive as the superior culture, the one that's dominating. Can't drink alcohol, can't eat pork, can't engage in a lot of activities that that are considered haram, and it bothers them. So there's a thing called the 3-generation rule, which is documented that often happens is if people assimilate into the West in 3 generations, they tend to assimilate and become more secular, aligned with that culture. So this is not good news for a lot of the Muslims moving into the West. They may be boasting numbers right now, but the question is, can that be sustained over the 3-generation rule? I don't think that's going to be the case.
On paper, almost nobody leaves Islam. According to Pew Research, Muslims have a 99% retention rate globally. In Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim country, 93% were raised Muslim, and 93% still identify as Muslim today. In Pakistan, Egypt, and across the Middle East, the pattern repeats. Fewer than 1% report leaving the faith. It looks rock solid, unshakable. But here's the problem. Those numbers don't measure belief. They measure survival. In much of the Muslim world, leaving Islam isn't a private choice. It's a crime. Algeria, Malaysia, Brunei, Egypt all maintain laws punishing apostasy. In Afghanistan and Iran, public atheism can mean prison or death. In Saudi Arabia, promoting atheist thought is classified as terrorism. In Pakistan, a Facebook post questioning Islam can trigger a blasphemy charge or a lynch mob. So when a survey taker shows up with a clipboard asking about religion, you tick the box that keeps you alive. As one ex-Muslim put it, the first rule of leaving Islam is not to talk about leaving Islam.
Yeah, that's the thing right here. This is what we are seeing. The official numbers of Muslims worldwide is probably not accurate by any stretch of the imagination because they're using official country data. They're not using the actual data because you can't get real data because people are afraid they'll be thrown in prison or killed for leaving us. And you also have to think about this. You have to think about what these authoritarian laws are doing. They don't actually create Muslims that are fervent for the faith. You create cultural Muslims, people that identify as Muslim because they have to. And I remember reading about this in an article in the Atlantic about this kind of authoritarian overreach on what it does in terms of religiosity. If you have a town, for example, in like the middle of like Arkansas, and they want to ban bikinis because they think they're immoral. Okay, you do that one generation. The second generation comes along and they hold to the rule because that's what they were taught. The third generation comes along and they start to question that rule. What is the point of this rule? Why do we have it? And they get rid of it. It's the 3-generation rule kind of thing that I mentioned earlier, a little bit different in this kind of thing. But you get the idea. When you enforce something, when you try to enforce morality, people do it not because they want to be moral. They do it because they don't want to break the law. So they're not doing it because they actually think it's right. And that over time creates a psychology. We're doing this not because it's the right thing to do, but because we have to. Take that mentality and apply it to the apostasy laws in the Islamic world. Why are you identifying as Muslim? Because we have to, not because we want to. And that slowly builds up in over generations. People start to go, why are we identifying as Muslim? Why do we have to? Well, because the state said we had to. Oh, that's why we're Muslim? That's not a good reason to be Muslim. And they're right. This is a problem that happened in Europe with state-funded and run churches. They don't work. What happened in America was you basically capitalized. You used the metrics, the principles of capitalism on religion. If you as clergy need to actually go out and proselytize to get people into your church, you're not just going to rely on government funds. You actually have to go out and do the work. So you start actually proselytizing, evangelizing, because that's how you're going to get converts. If you're just relying on a government check that's going to keep funding your church, you don't care. You just whatever. That's why a lot of these state-funded churches are run by bishops that are atheists now in places like Sweden and Denmark. They're just getting a government check. Now, apply that to the Islamic world. People are going to identify as Muslim because they have to, not because they actually want to. And the numbers coming out now in certain places like Tunisia, Algeria, Iran are telling that story.
Because when you look where people can actually speak freely, everything changes. In the United States, 23% of people raised Muslim have left the faith. Nearly 1 in 4. In Canada and Europe, similar patterns emerge. When Muslims live in environments where apostasy won't get them killed, a significant number walk away. But the most shocking numbers come from inside the Islamic world itself. In 2020, an anonymous survey of 50,000 Iranians revealed something extraordinary. Only 32% still identified as Shia Muslim.
Yeah, this is something we've highlighted before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you add up the different kinds of Muslims, it adds up to about 40%. So basically 40% of the population of Iran identifies as any kind of Muslim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is, and they're reporting their like actual numbers is like 90% is Muslim, which is just total lie, absolute total lie. So, it kind of makes you wonder how many maybe of this group, this Shiite Muslim, is just saying that because, again, they're scared. It's got to, I'm not saying it's like 30%. It's got to at least some of that.
Well, the idea is that this poll was anonymous. So, so there's no threat. And so, yeah, when you get numbers like 95%, that's if you go around, that's if the government goes around asking people, oh, of course we're Muslims. Of course we're Muslims. If you switch that to, it's anonymous, then you get completely different numbers.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And again, you're seeing similar stuff coming out of Tunisia, Algeria, like we showed earlier with this interesting article here. Let me put that up again. Yeah, so I mean, this is reflective of what's probably, and this is opposite ends of the Islamic world, North Africa to Middle East. You're seeing these kinds of trends, which is actually kind of interesting.
Sect Iran's theocracy mandates. Over 22% said they have no religion. More than half, over 50%, admitted that they had once been religious but lost their faith. In a country where official statistics claim 99% Islamic identification, half the population has privately checked out. The survey revealed something even more startling. Nearly 60% of respondents said they no longer pray.
Internet is seeping in. And I also think it has a lot to do, David, with the collapse of the Islamic civilization. If you can't go out and conquer, I mean, Islam is not a religion like Christianity. It's built on the idea that we are supposed to subjugate the world. That is what Allah has mandated for us as Muslims, as they say. If you can't do that, if the West is dominating you, that actually reflects on the truth of Islam. Christianity, it says we're going to be persecuted, we're going to be hated. Islam says you should be dominating and subjugating. If you're not doing that, you either have two options. Either Allah is punishing you, or it's Islam is false. I can't think of another alternative in there. Maybe there is, but I can't think of one.
Yeah, Allah's punishing you or testing you, but this actually to get the big picture for a lot of its history, Islam was expanding and conquering and so on. And they had a caliphate. They had a caliphate for most of their history. All of a sudden, the Ottoman Empire, that's the Ottoman Caliphate, fights in World War I, allies with the Germans, not a good idea. They lose, and for the first time in many, many centuries, Islam loses its caliphate. We do not understand in the West how traumatic that was, right? You have the caliphate. That is an idea that is built into Islam. They lost it. And so if you look at pictures of places like Iran and Afghanistan, even if you look at pictures of those places from like the 1960s, they looked like Western nations. People started dressing like Western nations. People were getting jobs in technology and so on. Women were studying engineering and things like that. And so it was basically the attitude of a lot of people was, okay, we lost. It didn't work. This is not supposed to be the way things are according to Islam. Islam is supposed to expand and expand and expand until it takes over the world. And now we can't win a fight, and we lost our caliphate. It didn't work. It's been falsified. So the emphasis for a while was to modernize and westernize, but then you had the possible alternative explanation that Mike just mentioned. Maybe it's not that Islam is false. Maybe Allah is punishing us. Maybe Allah is punishing the Muslim community for not being devout enough, for not being strict enough in enforcing Sharia and so on. So Allah is punishing you to see, to give you an opportunity to correct course and so on. So this is what gives rise to like the Muslim Brotherhood in Sunni Islam. This is what leads to the Iranian Revolution in Shia Islam. Those are both sort of experiments, right? Like, hey, what happens if we crack down and become very strict? Then Allah will bless us, and then you'll see. Then you'll see that we will continue expanding and taking over the world. So they tried that. Guess what? It's collapsing in Iran. It's not working. And with the Muslim Brotherhood, the sort of culmination of that type of thinking was ISIS. ISIS lost and so on. So anyway, not doing well for the Muslim Brotherhood either. And so now the idea is cropping up again all over the place. Like this, why are we weak? Why are we so weak? Why don't we have a caliphate? Why can't, no matter how strict we become, why can't we win and make a comeback? And why isn't Allah blessing us? And so it's really like it's psychologically leading them away from Islam. Now, what's really, really screwed up, okay, so be really, really strict and devout. Like go around just beating and imprisoning women if they don't wear the hijab and so on. Do that sort of thing, and then Allah will bless you, okay? They're doing all that stuff. It's not working. Islam is still imploding. So what do you do now? Keep in mind, that would have been the end of it. That would have been, it wouldn't be the end of Islam. You'd still have Islam going on and so on, but that would be the end of it for lots of people. Like, I can't take this seriously anymore. And Islam would just continue to spiral downwards and so on. But now you have the additional alternative, which is maybe Allah is conquering the world in a different way. Maybe he's letting these nations crumble so you all become immigrants and go take over Western nations, and maybe you're going to take over again because of that. So sadly, you have Western leaders actually helping them come up with an alternative explanation. If you weren't doing that, there'd just be no possible explanation in Islam for why things are crumbling like this.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't work in the long run. I mean, if you go to, like, for example, the U.S., like Pew Research will point out that like 23% of like people in the U.S. are leaving Islam.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I mean, like, migrating to the West is not going to help them in the long run. Like, that's
the idea is look, they're looking and like, look, we're taking over entire cities in the UK and stuff like this. So it's the stuff they're bragging about. They're not bragging about the 23% apostasy rate of Muslims in the US and so on. They're bragging, they're thumping their chest. Look, we're taking over cities. So maybe if we just take over a little more, and the goal is, if we take over enough places, then we can actually silence all criticism, block all criticism, kill critics, and so on. Start, implementing apostasy laws, and then we can stop people from leaving Islam. And so that's the theory. It's not going to work, but it just sucks that it gives them hope that Islam is still going to be victorious, because lots of people are still going to suffer because they have this hope.
The children and grandchildren of the revolution grew up under this system. They didn't experience Islam as a moral compass. They experienced it as a suffocating state ideology that controlled every aspect of life. They watched mullahs and officials preach sacrifice while living in privilege and corruption. They saw criticism of the system silenced in the name of defending the faith. Over time, the very idea of Islamic government became toxic in their eyes.
This is a point I've been trying to hit at. When you tie religion to the government, when the government is corrupt, you see that as a product of the religion because they're tied together. This is just what psychologically happens for people. But I mean, also, again, when you enforce religion, you're not doing it because you want to. Think of sending your kids to school. What does your kid say every morning? I don't want to go to school today. You force them to go because they need to learn basic things like arithmetic and spelling. You can't do that with religion because they're going to learn it because they have to, not because they want to. Now, I'm not saying you're going to take your kid to church, but you can't like force them to be a Christian. They have to make that personal choice. And that's the thing we teach nowadays. When you have states trying to force Islam onto people, they're Muslim because they have to, not because they want to be. This is the problem. This is the problem with states doing that versus families, because families are little units. They a lot different, because your parents love you, that kind of thing. Very different. When a state is doing that, it makes people reject it because they don't want to be told what to believe by the state. This is just what happens psychologically.
As one Iranian woman said during the 2022 protest, they ruined our religion by trying to force it on us. Mandatory hijab laws turned the religion into a vehicle of oppression. The more the regime doubled down on coercion, the more it alienated its people. By 2022, Iran erupted. Mahsa Amini, a young woman, died at the hands of the morality police for an improper hijab. Nationwide protest followed. The slogan, "Woman, Life, Freedom." Crowds burned pictures of the supreme leader. Women tossed their headscarves into bonfires. This wasn't a rejection of God. It was a rejection of clerical tyranny. But once that distinction is made collectively, the next step follows naturally. If the guardians of Islam are corrupt liars and living under Islamic laws yields only misery, maybe the religion itself isn't worth following. A bitter joke circulates in Iran. We asked Allah for an Islamic republic. He gave it to us, and in doing so, he cured us of our Islam. But here's what makes this exodus different from past religious collapses. Most people can't leave openly, so they do something else. They live double lives. Public Muslim, private atheist. On Reddit's ex-Muslim forum, over 100,000 members share their stories anonymously. What started as a few hundred has exploded into a global support network. They document the mental gymnastics.
David, do you remember how long ago was it that we were told one of the main arguments for the truth of Islam is that no one ever leaves Islam?
Yeah, that was a while back. But yeah, if you go back like 20 years, 18, 20 years and so on, that was so common that when you had an ex-Muslim, it was very common to say, nope, you're a liar. You've been a Christian all your life, or you've been a Jew or something like that. And you're just pretending to be an ex-Muslim because, that's what they said back then. No one ever leaves Islam. And it was just amazing to hear because this became this claim among Muslims. Fortunately, there are so many ex-Muslims now that can be verified as ex-Muslims that they've dropped this. But even back then when they were saying it, it's like no one ever leaves Islam. It's like the first of the rightly guided caliphs had to fight what were called the apostasy wars. That's what you had to do after Muhammad died. After Muhammad died, so many people left Islam that Abu Bakr had to actually fight what are called the apostasy wars. It's like, but somehow they can spread the myth. No one ever leaves Islam.
Yep, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, yeah, I've not heard that argument used. I do remember hearing that a lot though, but now because of things like this Reddit forum, not gonna work anymore. Pretty messed up stuff, but good to know they can't use that argument.
Fasting during Ramadan when the family is watching, but eating in secret. Attending Friday prayers to keep up appearances while feeling nothing. Using Islamic greetings and going to family celebrations, all while privately rejecting every word. One Egyptian user wrote, "I've been pretending for 6 years. My parents have no idea. They found out I'd be disowned or worse."
Think about that. For 6 years, this guy's been pretending to be a Muslim. 6 years. I don't know how you could keep that up, man. That'd be
a lot of my early videos were geared towards insulating people and giving them some basic understanding so that when the Muslim preacher comes along and says, hey, Islam, you believe in women's rights? Did you know that Muhammad was the greatest feminist who ever lived? They would actually know not to believe that sort of thing. But weird thing happened after putting out tons of those videos. Then all of a sudden I started seeing lots of people leaving Islam. So it's like,
yeah, also
it can happen.
I just found this on TikTok today, just scrolling, just to let you know.
Month, TikTok jihadis doxed my entire family. They posted my home address. They posted my wife's phone number and started calling her in the middle of the night when I was out of town. They're saying they're going to Charlie Kirk me. They've been posting videos with pictures of my wife with gunshot noises, pictures of my kids. My days are supposedly numbered.
I speak on behalf of tens of thousands of ex-Muslims around the world when I say that Dr. David Wood played a primary role with me leaving Islam. Honestly, it's probably in the hundreds of thousands. I'm not exaggerating. And it's for that reason that he is a major target for many jihadi dogs.
Yep, I was like, yeah, that's pretty relevant for today's stream. It's they whisper around the Muslim world, "He who shall not be named."
You know what's crazy? I still feel like we're just getting warmed up here. Not joking.
Oh, we sure are.
I still like, oh my goodness, because just the past couple of years, and now that there are more people involved, now we're kind of more coordinated and like we can actually coordinate responses, take out entire arguments and so on that they've been using and so on. And then it's like, man, 2026, 2027, look at everything just crumbling in Dawa. It's like, what does the future hold?
Their plan to take over the world is over.
Oh yeah, and guys, so big picture, everyone. Big picture, everyone. The apostasy rate is increasing. So IP, when you heard 26%, that's because the 24% was from like 5 or 6 years ago. The most recent one is 26%, which means it went up another 2% over the past few years. So the apostasy rate, and guys, keep in mind, if you went back 25 years, it would have been close to zero. Right? Would have been close to zero. So after 2.5 decades, it went from close to zero to 26% apostasy rate among young Muslims. So your apostasy rate is accelerating. The only reason it didn't collapse already is because you had high birth rates. But if your birth rates are dropping while the apostasy rate is accelerating, it's just math. You lose. You see, the math doesn't lie. And it spells disaster for you.
A report in the New York Times in 2011 under the heading "Forecast Sees Muslim Population Leveling" states that the growth of Muslim population, will level off with more Muslim women getting educations and jobs, people migrating to cities, and living standards improving. He adds the birth rate in Muslim majority countries will come more closely to resemble the pattern of other nations. In his opinion, predictions that Europe will become a majority Muslim Eurabia are unfounded. The fact is that fertility rate of many rich and educationally sound Muslim countries like Iran, Malaysia, Turkey, UAE, etc., already resemble that of many European countries. But poor and educationally backward African Muslim countries like Nigeria, which is actually 49% Christian, have still high rates of birth as stated above. So yeah, this is Ethiopia as a Christian nation. They have high birth rates as well. So you got to take that stuff into consideration. Actually, sub-Saharan Africa has extremely high birth rates as well, and they're Christian or folk religion. Disputing the report that world population will reach to 10 billion in 2011, Indian economist says, claims that birth rates worldwide will fall below replacement rates in the 2020s. According to his projections, population growth will be only sustained till the 2040s by rising longevity, but will peak below 9 billion by 2050. So they're already predicting that populations is going to start to decrease by 2050, including Muslims. India, with its large Muslim minority, has also success story for checking the population growth. So this author, whose name I'm not going to pronounce, also reports that India has defused the population bomb and done with it without a draconian one-child policy. One may rightly hope that with the philosophy of development to all, the benefit of economic prosperity and education in Muslim societies will reach to all and no section will remain abandoned. Hopefully the coming decade will see all-round developments in the Islamic world and population growth of Muslim countries check to the level desired, i.e. 2.1. So, yep, he's basically pointing out here that when you just run the numbers, this idea that the Muslim birth rates are going to continue is not going to happen. You have rising apostasy rates. You have low retention for Muslim converts. What does that tell you? Islam is not going to go the path that everyone was predicting 15, 20 years ago. They are not going to overtake the world like they've been claiming based on the way the numbers are showing now. Again, when they project Islam is going to dominate the world and be the largest religion by 2050, those were based on the current apostasy rates, which they were taking official numbers, and it was like below 0%, which we know is fabrications, lies, but also the current birth rates, which are declining rapidly. So this idea they're going to overtake the world is not founded. It's not based in fact. Yep.
In other words, game over.
Game over. And again, like I was saying, if the Muslim birth rate is 2.9, the non-Muslim birth rate is 2.2, but you have apostasy rates at about 25, 26%, that places you combine that with the Muslim birth rate. It makes the Muslim birth rate the same with the non-Muslim birth rate. So you will have the same amount of growth in terms of Muslim, non-Muslim. Thank you for gifting 50 Inspiring Philosophy memberships. We really, really appreciate that. I love how we're basically doing nothing and Dawa is crumbling while we just watch. That is the thing, man. That is the thing. Like, there's a story in Kings. I forget where it is, but it's like the Israeli army has to they fast for 3 days and 3 nights. Then they go out to fight the enemies, and the armies have like turned on each other and killed each other. Like, that's kind of how I feel half the time fighting Dawa. Like we didn't plan for Malik and Jake and Speaking Muslim to all start fighting, but that's what they just did. Like, they're doing the work for us. And then again, the outside world sees this and they're like, if that's what it's like inside Islam, why would I ever convert? Even with Islam declining, how much damage can they still do to Western cultures like the US and European countries in their attempt to take over? They can do a lot of damage in Europe, not so much in America, but in Europe, yeah, they can definitely do some damage. There's going to probably be some civil wars, I would suspect, soon.
You think in like the Western countries there will be?
I think France is riddled with chaos. I can't imagine them. It's just bad. It's bad there. That's all I'm saying from what I've heard on the inside. Dawa losing it over bros being bros. It's banter. Yep. Yeah. They're like, I got to find this clip because Malik said it last night where he says he said something like, inside, it's like, it's even worse. Like you see it you see all the fighting on the outside, but it's even worse on the inside. I gotta find that. I forget what he's. I'm trying to think of what he exactly said in that thing. I don't know. I didn't watch his whole thing this morning when Thaddeus sent this over to me, but I don't know. Oh, here it is. Here, I can put this up now.
It's not even worth it. It's not worth it. If people like Jay can speak and are going to exist in this community, then there's no hope.
Oop.
And the thing is that I can tell you guys boycott. We boycott Jake for a bit, and you guys will forgive him.
Hold on, I think I need to go to the 8-minute mark. It's like around there. I don't think it jumped for some reason.
All that, it's all fake, bro. Like I don't care what you guys like, how you guys want to justify it online. Like I've been around the world 3 times, and I know like fake when I see it. And it's just so much behind the scenes, and even the way I like, bro. If y'all think the stuff I say is crazy, like the behind the scenes stuff is even like worse, you know.
So Malik is saying the stuff he shows publicly, it's even worse behind the scenes, the way they fight with each other and they're attacking each other. Like, as he said, he's been rear-ended by so many Muslims. Not in the Zut sense, but he's been rear-ended by so many Muslims.
Oh, and he says he knows fake when he sees it because he looks in a mirror every day and says, I'm a gangster.
Yeah. I mean, like, but that's the thing. Like, you join Islam and you immediately start fracturing and fighting. I mean, look at poor Jake Brancatello. Apparently he's been in on the doxing, according to Malik. I'd like to see what he has to release on that. But, you know, he joined Islam and now, like, half the Dawa guys hate him. I can't imagine being in that community where you have to walk on eggshells all the time, always competing for attention. Like we go on streams and we talk, they talk about how they have to record each other's phone calls just because they need to have dirt to use on each other. I've never recorded one phone call with Fan or David or anyone. Like, we don't try to keep dirt on each other over here. I don't get this.
Oh,
man.
I have a whole like Google Drive folder on you, Mike.
You're done then.
I'm just joking.
I know. Sagara forever. David Wood 2026. All right.
Hey.
David Wood, you're winning me over.